You really think truth will save you, Elena people, like you don't survive honesty. The words still echoed as she ran, clutching the silver USB tight to her chest. Headlights flashed behind men who'd rather see her gone than let the secret slip. She wasn't running for money anymore, but for something far heavier. Before we dive in, let me know, what time are you listening to this and where are you? Drop a comment below, we'd love to hear from you. Elena Ward woke before her alarm. The clock blinked 6:07. She poured half a cup of coffee, enough to wake, not enough to waste, and rubbed her belly out of habit. The baby kicked once, a small reminder that it was still waiting. The radio filled the room with cheerful chatter. Start your day with something good, the host said. Elena smirked. Good was relative. She pulled on her uniform, the black polo tight around her belly, sneakers still damp from yesterday. At the cafe, the rush had already started. Mr. Dalton counted coins by the register as if hoping they'd multiply. Morning, Elena, he muttered. We're short-staffed. Take drive-through, too. She nodded. The headset pinched her ear while she juggled cups and receipts. Her legs throbbed by mid-shift. Stretching brought a sharp glance from Dalton. If you need breaks, maybe this job isn't right for you, he said low, but cutting. A voice came from beyond the fence. You look worn out, sweetheart. Mrs. Merrill stood there holding a bag of groceries. Her lined face softened. I'm managing, Elena said. Managing doesn't keep lights on, the woman replied, handing her a tin. Soup mix. Water works fine if milk's short. And don't skip meals, dear. You're not alone in there. Merrill always had a way of dropping kindness, like advice. As she turned to leave, the woman added, sometimes the heaviest things are what keep us steady. That line stayed with her long after the door swung shut. Her shift ended late. Dalton docked an hour for slow time. She said nothing. Her shoes squished with each step. At the mailbox, a handful of junk flyers waited, ads for payday loans, a clinic notice, and one yellow poster folded in half, storage auction. Saturday, 9 a.m. Someone had drawn a dollar sign beside it. She almost tossed it, then caught a phrase, unclaimed assets. The paper smelled faintly of ink and damp. Upstairs, she heated Merrill's soup and ate standing at the sink. The fridge hummed again, the only sound. On TV, a reporter mentioned the auction of storage units once owned by the late billionaire, Thomas Reddick, his estate still tied up in disputes. Maybe someone's trash was worth enough to cover a month's rent. People threw away strange things when they had too much. The clock read 11:15. She rubbed her eyes, folded the paper, and slipped it into her notebook. Nothing about that night seemed unusual, though years later she'd remember it as the last time life felt ordinary. Mr. Dalton was pinning a new schedule when she arrived at the cafe. We're cutting hours, he said flatly. Her name had half the shifts it used to. How many? All of them for now. Closing the morning shift. The words hit without weight, but something inside her went empty. She wanted to remind him how many doubles she'd worked through her pregnancy, but he was already calling someone else. Mandy smirked from behind the espresso machine. Guess they want someone who moves faster. Elena kept wiping the counter, careful and steady, pretending not to hear. By the time she left, her hands shook. Cars splashed past, water streaking her coat. She walked aimlessly past the laundromat, the old church, the discount store. Her reflection followed in shop glass, same coat, same eyes, same practice calm. At a crosswalk, a boy tugged his mother's sleeve, pointing at her belly. The woman smiled politely and pulled him along. Her throat tightened. At home, the hallway smelled damp. She found an envelope under the mat, final notice in red. The numbers blurred as she read. It joined the pile of unopened bills on the counter. She stood there for a few seconds, palms flat against the wall, then tore off a piece of bread from the loaf in the fridge and chewed without tasting. The radio buzzed from the shelf, catching her attention. Mid-sentence, estate auction, unclaimed property, rare opportunity. The announcer's voice sharpened. Among the lots is a storage unit once owned by the late billionaire Thomas Reddick. Contents remain sealed. Auction begins Saturday. Her eyes drifted to the yellow flyer tucked in her notebook. The ink had faded, but the address still showed clear. She traced the line with a fingertip. Crazy, she muttered, unsure whether she meant the idea or herself. A knock startled her. Mrs. Merrill stood in the doorway, holding a towel-wrapped pot. Stew, she said simply. You need it. Elena stepped aside. You read minds. The old woman set it on the stove, glancing around. You're keeping it together better than most. But you can't hold everything alone. I'm just tired. That's what my daughter used to say before she walked away from herself. Meryl found 2 spoons. Eat. No arguments. They shared the stew in silence. It was warm, thick grounding. When the bowls were empty, Meryl leaned back. You'll find a way, honey. Maybe not how you expect. Elena managed a small laugh. I doubt it'll drop from the sky. Then stop looking up, Meryl said. Sometimes what you need's right in front of you. The remark lingered even after the door closed. Elena rinsed the bowls, set them upside down to dry, and opened her notebook again. The flyer's corners were worn soft. Maybe she could sell whatever she found junk to someone else enough for rent to her. She took the envelope of savings from the fridge door, $312, and counted it twice. 200s went into a smaller envelope labeled limit. Her phone buzzed, payment tomorrow or eviction Monday. She turned it face down, screen dimming on its own. Thunder rolled faintly. She pulled a chair near the curtain and watched streaks gather and run. Across the street, a man with a blue umbrella talked into his phone, laughing with the easy confidence of someone who never counted change. The baby shifted, pressing upward. She rubbed her ribs until it settled. The flyer lay open on the table. Storage auction. Saturday, 9 a.m. She didn't plan to go. It was just a thought to keep from sinking a small, harmless hope. Still, before lying down, she laid out her old jacket and checked her wallet, just in case. Saturday arrived, gray puddles mirroring pieces of sky. Elena zipped her jacket halfway, pressed a hand to her belly, and slipped the envelope of cash into her pocket. The storage lot stood behind a row of used car shops, a strip of cracked asphalt fenced by banners that read, Auction Today. Dozens of bidders lingered, men with clipboards, women in caps, couples clutching cups too full to drink. She blended into the edge of the crowd, doing her best not to look new. The auctioneer, a round man with a gravelly voice, clapped his hands. All right, folks, let's get started. Unit 32, first one up. Metal doors rattled open one by one, revealing forgotten lives stacked in boxes. People craned their necks, whispering numbers. Bids flew fast, the rhythm both messy and thrilling. Elena kept her distance, watching others wave cash like it meant nothing. Every bid sounded like another language. When the auctioneer called Unit 47 belonged to Thomas Reddick's estate, the crowd surged closer. The door rolled up. Dust rose from the floor, coating trunks, shelves, and old desk with a cracked monitor. Someone whistled. Doesn't look like much. Another bidder murmured. Could be something hidden. Those tech guys kept backups of backups. Elena's pulse picked up. The auctioneer started fast. 200 to open. No one moved. She felt the envelope heavy in her pocket, her heart beat louder than the murmurs around her. 200 once he called. Her hand went up before her mind caught up. Here. Heads turned. Someone snorted softly, amused. 200, thank you, ma'am. Do I hear 3 silence? Sold? The gavel hit the clipboard. Unit 47 to the lady in the gray jacket. Elena exhaled, half disbelief, half dread. Someone muttered behind her. Hope she likes cleaning junk. She didn't turn. A worker handed her the receipt. 24 hours to clear it. The paper felt flimsy in her hand. She tucked it away, looking once at the dark space beyond the open door. Boxes waited like unspoken questions. For a moment she stood there, listening to the shuffle of bidders moving on. Then she stepped forward. A man with a thick mustache clapped his hands for attention. Same rules, he said. Cash only. You win it, you haul it. Laughter rippled through the crowd. Elena folded her arms, nodding as if she belonged. They opened units one after another, dusty couches, broken bikes, stacks of magazines. The shouting of numbers turned the scene into a blur. Her nerves eased. It felt like watching a game she didn't have to play. Then came Unit 47, former property of Thomas Reddick, tech investor, the man announced. A ripple went through the crowd. The door groaned open, showing a few boxes, a small wooden chest, and overturned chair. Disappointment spread. Starting bid 100, he called. No one moved. 150, still nothing. Elena's hand tightened around her envelope. 200. Heads turned. 200 going once. Twice. Sold, the man shouted, grinning. You just bought yourself a piece of history. Before she could think, people were already turning toward the next unit. Papers were signed, a key handed over. Her heart thudded for no reason she could name. She hauled the boxes to the rental truck, one arm bracing her belly. The chest took both hands. The carved letter R caught her eye. "You picked an odd one," came a voice. A man with a worn jacket and a paper cup stood nearby. His tone carried no judgment. "Maybe." "It was cheap," she replied. "Cheap's a gamble. Name's Caleb. Elena." "I worked for Reddick once," he said, watching the boxes. "Guess I wanted to see what ghosts he left behind." She paused. "You knew him enough to stop liking him." He nodded. "Good luck." She watched him leave, his words lingering like a quiet warning. By afternoon, the boxes filled her kitchen, leaving barely room to move. Most held files, receipts, company letters useless. She sighed and went for the chest. The latch jammed, snapping the key, so she pried it open with a butter knife. Cables, discs, and one small silver USB rested on the table. She turned it over in her hand. It was heavier than it looked, engraved with an unfamiliar mark. Caleb's words came back, ghosts he left behind. Her laptop waited open. She plugged the drive in. A single file appeared, ledger private. She clicked. The screen blinked, filled with symbols, then cleared. Nothing else. The laptop hummed like normal. She pulled the drive out and stared at it, uncertain. Probably encrypted business junk, she told herself, though. Unease threaded through the thought. She made noodles at half, left the rest. The baby rolled beneath her ribs. She rubbed the ache away. Another box held photographs, Reddick at events, shaking hands with suited men. In one picture, a man half-turned beside him, jawline oddly familiar. Her phone buzzed. The auction office confirmed payment, reminding her to pick up the receipt Monday. A second message followed, no number listed. "Did you find it?" Her pulse jumped. She typed wrong number and locked the phone. A siren wailed somewhere beyond the walls. She checked the door, then sat again. The USB caught the dull light cold against the table. She reached toward it, then stopped. Tomorrow, she thought. "I'll deal with it tomorrow." The thought didn't calm her, but it was something to hold. She lay still, eyes open, tracing the chest's outline until sleep crept in. When she woke, the boxes waited. She kept telling herself she'd sort them later, maybe sell a few things to cover bills. By Friday, curiosity won. She sliced open a box, folders, cords, cracked frames. Beneath it sat a small wooden box latch, stiff and R, faintly carved on top. It took a hard pull to open. Old drives, coins, and one silver USB lay within, heavier than it looked, engraved with the same letter. On impulse, she plugged it into her laptop. The screen flickered, then showed private ledger. Access denied. It didn't look like personal files or photos, but something locked tight. Probably work stuff, she muttered, clicking again. The system froze, restarted. She unplugged it, laughing nervously. That night she ate standing by the sink, her eyes drifting toward the USB resting on the table. Curiosity, it had wrecked her before, back when her husband's easy money plans cost them their home. The TV filled the room with background chatter. A reporter mentioned Thomas Reddick again, his estate missing, cryptocurrency rumors of an encrypted wallet. Elena froze mid-bite. Her gaze shifted to the USB. The anchor's words blurred, but two stuck, unaccounted millions. She turned off the TV, pulse quickening. After a moment, she plugged the drive in again. The screen came alive, codes, symbols, a prompt, recover previous session. She clicked yes. Numbers appeared, followed by a line, wallet value, 4238,561.72. Her hand flew to her mouth. "No!" She closed the laptop, heart hammering. When she opened it again, the same numbers glowed calmly back. She wasn't a hacker or a thief. The drive was legally hers, yet every part of it felt wrong. She thought of calling someone, but who? A flash of code appeared, then vanished. She yanked the USB out and shoved it in a drawer. Her chest ached. The baby kicked sharp and quick. She washed dishes, folded clothes, tried to anchor herself in routine, but her eyes kept sliding toward that drawer, half expecting the thing to hum. Sometime past midnight, she dozed off on the couch. When she woke, the laptop was on. Text filled the screen, connection errors, data transfer failed. Her breath caught. Had it connected online, the cursor blinked. Then unauthorized access detected. She slammed the lid shut. A car engine started below. A door closed. Footsteps passed in the hall. Someone knocked 2 doors down. A dog barked once, then stopped. Elena didn't move until everything went still again. Then she stuffed the USB and laptop into a tote. No plan, just an instinct she couldn't stay. Morning dragged in gray and wet. At the corner cafe, she ordered tea, trying to steady her hands. A man across the room glanced her way more than once, too neat for the neighborhood, too calm. When she rose to leave, he smiled faintly and held something out. "You dropped this." The silver USB gleamed in his palm. Her breath caught. "Where did you—" "It fell from your bag." She forced a laugh. "Thanks." She reached for it. He didn't release it right away. "Be careful with that," he murmured. "Not everything valuable should be opened." Then he let go, turned back to his cup. Elena walked out, gripping the drive so tightly it marked her skin. By the time she reached home, the clouds were breaking. The USB sat on the table again, next to unpaid bills. She couldn't decide what frightened her more, the money or the fact that someone else knew it existed. The phone rang. She ignored it. It rang again, longer. She picked up mid-ring, whispering, "Hello." A faint click, then nothing. By Monday, even the wall seemed restless. The USB sat in the smallest pocket of her purse. She told herself it was temporary, though her hand brushed it more often than she realized. She went to the cafe, hoping for work. The bell jingled as she stepped in. Mandy's smile barely hid her disdain. "Didn't think you'd be back," she said. "Heard you were taking time off." "I need hours," Elena replied. "Any at all." Dalton came from the back, tightening his tie. "We're full. Try Burnside, someone said they're hiring." She nodded, knowing it was empty talk. "Thanks anyway." "Nothing personal," he said, already walking off. She left. The sky hung dull and heavy. At a pawn shop, she stopped beneath the awning, staring at a flickering TV in the display. "Authorities reopened the investigation into missing assets belonging to the late Thomas Reddick." Her pulse stuttered. The anchor mentioned an encrypted wallet, stolen millions, a hidden key. She stepped back from the glass. A man beside her gave a polite nod before walking away. She wanted to dismiss it, but couldn't. When she reached home, the door was unlocked. She froze. The curtains shifted, a chair out of place, a drawer open. Nothing missing, yet everything touched. Her purse was still zipped. The USB was there. Relief came sharp, brief. The laptop on the table glowed faintly, lid half open. A single line appeared on the screen: "Do not move." Her breath shortened. She shut it down, yanked the plug, stared at her reflection in the black screen. Eyes wide, face drained. A thud in the hallway made her jump. Tires screeched somewhere beyond the building, then stillness returned. By evening, she couldn't stay. She packed light wallet, keys, sweater, USB, and double-locked the door. At the diner on the corner, voices and clinking plates offered a false sense of safety. Caleb was there, reading his phone. "You again?" he said, glancing up. "You look shaken." "Someone broke into my place," she whispered. "It's about that drive." He gestured for her to sit. She explained the laptop, the message, the unlocked door. He listened, jaw tightening. "That drive isn't just a wallet," he said at last. "I used to work for Reddick. I've seen code like it. It hides things worth killing for." She stared. "What do I do?" "Don't keep it at home. Don't connect it online. And then, you trust me for now. Whoever came in, they won't stop." Her throat tightened. "How do you know I helped build their system?" His tone carried no pride. "I know what happens to people who touch it." Headlights passed, briefly washing over them. She rubbed her temples, mind reeling. "I don't even know who they are," she said. "You will," he replied. "But not from your apartment. I've got a place out of town." Safe. The thought of going anywhere with him scared her, but staying felt worse. "I'll go," she murmured. He nodded. "Good." He left a few bills on the table. They walked out together. Wind pushed leaves down the street. His old pickup waited by the curb. She hesitated, then climbed in. The USB pressed against her side like a second heartbeat. The drive stretched longer than she expected. Empty lots gave way to scattered pines each mile, pulling her farther from what little still felt safe. She kept the tote close, the USB wrapped in a scarf. Caleb's eyes flicked toward it now and then, but he stayed focused on the road, jaw set like someone who'd already learned what danger costs. They turned down a narrow dirt path that ended at a sagging cabin. Smoke stains ringed the chimney boards, warped with age. "It's not much," he said, shutting off the engine. "But no one comes here." Elena stepped out, dampness clinging to her skin. "It's fine. I just need to rest." The place smelled faintly of cedar and ash. A small stove crouched in the corner beside an old couch, patched with tape. Caleb found 2 blankets and handed her one. "You can take the bed," he said. "I'll use the couch." "I'm not taking your bed." "You're the one carrying extra weight," he replied, nodding toward her stomach. A laugh slipped out before she could stop it. He poured water into a kettle and set it on the stove. "There's tea. Not good tea, but hot." They sat in stillness, the faint hiss of the kettle the only sound. Her thoughts circled the stranger at the cafe, the warning on her laptop, the unlocked door. Exhaustion left no room for disbelief. When the kettle whined, he poured her a mug. "Did they take anything?" "No, just move things. Like they wanted me to notice." "That's their way," he muttered. "Fear makes people give up what force can't." "You keep saying they." Who are they? Reddick's partners, investors, lobbyists, men who think privacy is a weapon? Reddick built a system to move money off the grid. The USB you found unlocks it. So he laundered money among other things. He tried to back out before he died. Started saving evidence. Then the files vanished. And now they think I have them. They don't think, Caleb said. They know. The baby shifted a small pulse against her ribs. "You said it's safe here. Safe enough for now." She sank onto the couch, sipping tea, though it burned. "Why help me? Because I helped build what's chasing you. And because if they get that drive, people disappear." She gripped the cup tighter. "What should I do? Wait. Let them think you panicked. I'll try to unlock it, see what's really there." He checked the locks, peered briefly through the glass before pulling the curtain shut. She watched, unsure whether to trust his calm. When he stepped out for firewood, she wandered the small room. On a shelf sat a photo. Caleb with a woman and child, both smiling without posing. Dust dulled the frame. When he came back, she gestured toward it. "Your family used to be." "They left when I went public with what I knew. Maybe they were scared." "Scared makes sense," he said. The kettle hissed again. He turned the burner off and sat across from her. "If you want to leave tomorrow, I'll drive you." "No questions." She shook her head. "I'll stay. I need to understand this first." He nodded, letting it end there. A branch snapped somewhere beyond the trees. Caleb stiffened, motioning her to stay still. He stepped onto the porch. She waited, hand pressed to her belly, counting the beats beneath her palm. He returned a minute later. "Probably a deer," he said, though his eyes stayed sharp. "We'll keep the lights off." She wrapped herself in the blanket. The fire dropped low, throwing dull shapes across the floor. Caleb lay back on the other couch, one arm folded behind his head. The night stretched long, heavy but bearable. She drifted toward sleep until his phone buzzed once. He turned it over, frowned. "What is it?" she whispered. "Wrong number, probably." The phone buzzed again. Before he flipped it, she caught a glimpse of the words, "We found her." His jaw tightened. He set the phone aside, face unreadable. By dawn, damp wood and weak tea scented the room. Caleb poured water into 2 chipped mugs. Elena rubbed her ankles, the night's weight still clinging to her. He handed her one. "You should eat." "I'm not hungry. You need strength," he replied, glancing at her stomach. She took a sip, letting the warmth settle her. Mist drifted through the trees when he stepped out to check the trail. He came back with mud on his boots. "Truck's fine, but there are fresh tire marks." Her stomach tightened. Could be anyone. Maybe. He opened the laptop and began sorting through the USB files. "Most of it's encrypted," he muttered, "but this one folder, donor list, meaning names, accounts, connections. If this is what I think it is, it's not just Reddick's people. Then who? Politicians, corporations, law enforcement?" The words hung heavy. "If they find us, we don't let them." She let out a strained laugh. Simple, necessary. The day crawled. Caleb fixed the porch railing, checked the property line. Elena counted cans, listening to his hammer tap like a clock. By afternoon, warmth filled the cabin. She drifted into half-sleep until the hammering stopped. He looked back. "Didn't mean to wake you." "I wasn't really asleep. You ever think about what comes next? There's no after until this ends." "There's always an after," he murmured. As dusk fell, he cooked beans with garlic. For a moment, the cabin felt almost normal. 2 people pretending the world outside hadn't narrowed around them. "Why'd Reddick trust you?" she asked. "He didn't. I worked in security. My job was to make sure no one like him got caught." He gave a half shrug. "Guess now we're both inside his trap." She wrapped the blanket closer. What if we destroy it? They'd still assume we copied it. It wouldn't save us. Then we're stuck. For now, he said, stacking the dishes. They'll need proof we're here first. When he stepped out to lock the truck, she stood by the window, watching fog drift between the trees. The weight in her chest felt part fear, part grief for the life she'd already lost. He returned, holding a folded note. Found this under the truck. She unfolded it carefully. 3 words returned the ledger. Her pulse jumped. Someone's here. Looks that way. Why leave a note to remind us we're being watched? He tore the paper into pieces, fed them to the stove. Flames curled around the scraps until they disappeared. So what now? We move tomorrow, he said. There's a place farther east. Off-grid. Too tired to argue, she nodded. The baby shifted and she pressed her hand over it. I just want this to stop. It will, he said, though, without conviction. When night settled, she lay on the couch watching him type. The clicking slowed, then stopped. His face froze, lit by the faint glow of the screen. What is it? She murmured. He didn't look up. Someone's pinging the drive again. Her throat tightened. From where? Close. He closed the laptop and pushed it aside. Get some rest. We leave at dawn. The road out was rough and narrow, forcing Caleb to drive slow. Elena wrapped herself in a blanket, staring at the blur of trees. At the highway, he checked the mirror more than the road. If we're lucky, he said, they haven't caught up. She met his tone with flat calm. You say that like luck still works. He gave a short laugh. Sometimes it does, not for long. A small gas station appeared ahead. Caleb parked, told her to stay put, then went to pay in cash. She nodded but watched him the whole time. A man in a dark coat stood near the vending machine, smoking. He looked their way twice, too casual to ignore. Caleb came back with water and sandwiches. Eat, he said. It'll be a long drive. Her stomach protested, but she forced a bite. Where are we going? East. There's a place by the river off-grid. Fields replaced forest as they drove. Houses appeared rarely, their windows dull and still. By noon her back throbbed, the baby pressing high beneath her ribs. She asked to stop. Caleb turned onto a rest road lined with weeds and a broken vending machine. While she stretched, he checked the supplies. The smell of fuel lingered. Why would Reddick leave this behind? She asked. Maybe he thought someone else could finish what he couldn't. You think that's me? I think you're the one who found it. That's enough. She traced a groove in the picnic bench. Keeping my head down used to feel safe. Guess it never was. He didn't answer. His eyes were fixed on a car slowing at the turnoff, idling too long before moving on. His jaw tightened. We should go. In the truck again, she held the USB through the scarf, wishing she could toss it out, unable to let go. A few miles on, Caleb's phone buzzed. He checked it, turned it face down. Spam, he muttered. The strain in his voice said otherwise. A black truck appeared behind them, closing in. Caleb's grip on the wheel hardened. Is that them? She asked. Could be nothing. It stayed close, shadowing every turn. He pressed the gas. Hold on. The road dipped, leveled near a bridge. The truck followed, headlights cutting through the downpour. Caleb veered onto a side path, tires sliding. The black vehicle hesitated, then followed. Caleb, I see it. He shifted gears, engine roaring. There's a service road ahead. If we reach it first, we lose them. Branches scraped the windshield. Mud splashed up the sides. The truck behind skidded, trying to keep up. They won't stop, she gasped. Not until they get what's in your bag. A rut jolted the vehicle hard enough to make her bite her tongue. Caleb steadied it, breathing through his teeth. The headlights vanished. He slowed. Either they quit, or they're waiting. Waiting where doesn't matter. We keep going till the river. Drizzle replaced the rain as they reached a clearing above gray water. Caleb cut the engine. Both sat still, hearts racing. From here, he said, we walk. I can't go far, just enough to cross. There's an old shed across the bank. The ground sucked at her shoes as they descended. Halfway through the shallows, pain seized her stomach. He turned fast. You okay? It's just tightness. Not yet. He steadied her until it passed, then urged her on. They reached the far bank. The shed leaned among the trees, half collapsed and damp. A cot, a few crates, a stove, that was all. This'll do, Caleb said, striking a match. We'll plan tomorrow. Elena sank onto the cot, exhaustion dragging through her bones. If they find us again, they won't. His tone didn't match the words. She closed her eyes, steadying her breath. Caleb moved around, sorting what little they had. When she looked up, he was by the stove phone in hand. Sending a signal, his head snapped up. No. Checking coordinates. The phone buzzed. A message flashed. Signal confirmed. Proceed. Her stomach knotted. Who are you talking to? He froze, eyes darting to the door, then back. It's not what it looks like. She pushed herself upright, the baby twisting inside her, pulse pounding. Then what is it I needed to know if we were being tracked? He said, voice tight. I pinged someone who can help us disappear. Who? An old contact. The same kind who built this mess. Why not tell me? I didn't want to make it worse. You think silence helps? I wasn't hiding anything. But even he sounded unconvinced. She wanted to believe him. She wanted to throw the USB into the river curl beneath the blankets and wake to her old life. But she couldn't separate wanting peace from needing truth. I'm tired of being managed, she said quietly. By you, by them, by everyone who thinks I'll fall apart if they tell me the truth. Caleb leaned back against the wall, shoulders sagging. The message was from Cole. Ex-law enforcement, worked with Reddick once. He owes me. I sent a signal so he'd know we're alive. Alive and where I scrambled it. He'll think we're north. And if you're wrong, then they're already close. Elena sat again, palms pressed to her knees. The baby fluttered, a small, steady reminder of what still mattered. Caleb crouched. I'll fix this, Elena. I promise. Don't promise, she said. Just stop making it worse. He straightened, checked the window, and started pacing. We rest tonight. Move at dawn. She didn't argue. Her body ached too deeply for that. Caleb spread a blanket on the floor. When Reddick died, they said heart attack. I read the report. Bruises on his wrists. Someone silenced him. You think they'll do that to me? He didn't answer. She shifted to ease her back. If I give them the drive, does it end? No. It starts again without you. Then what? We find someone who'll use it right. Maybe that lawyer in Portland, he helped whistleblowers before. If he's alive, he might take it. The name hit her like memory. Portland noise people, the illusion of normal life. Caleb watched her face. You're thinking it too. Maybe we can't run forever. Then we go back, he said. She almost laughed. Carefully, you'd be surprised what fear makes people manage. Caleb lay on the floor jacket for a pillow. She stayed on the cot, wide awake, each creak sounding like a warning. Her mind drifted to the day she'd opened that locker, how harmless it had seemed. She turned. You're not sleeping. Didn't plan to. Why help me? He was quiet, because someone once helped me when I didn't deserve it. The thought hung heavy. Gratitude and suspicion tangled until they were the same. A sharp crack made them both sit up. Caleb grabbed the flashlight beam, slicing the dark. The door rattled once, then again, metal scraping faintly. Caleb. He pressed his hand to the handle, listening. The sound faded, footsteps through mud, then nothing. He waited before stepping back. Probably nothing. She didn't believe him. Neither did he. They sat again, pretending calm. Tomorrow we go west, he said. If we reach that lawyer, you give him the drive. After that, you walk away. And I'll make sure it gets where it should. Sleep came in fragments. When she finally woke, the stove was cold and Caleb was gone. His phone lay beside an open map, a red line drawn straight toward Portland. The cot creaked as she sat up, staring at the empty space where he'd been. Her hand traced the red line like it might give her an answer. You said we'd go together, she whispered. Not anger, just disbelief that he'd left without a word. Her body felt heavier than before. The baby pressed against her ribs, urging her to move. She pulled on her jacket, slipped into damp shoes, and stepped into the scent of wet soil and pine. Caleb's footprints led toward the road, fading into mud and gravel, before giving way to tire marks heading west. The sky hung low, washed of color. Something in her settled, not fear, not anger, but resolve. She'd follow the red line on the map. She didn't trust him anymore, but she needed that lawyer as much as he did. Back inside, she packed what little was left: scarf, USB, 2 cans, 1 bottle of water. On a torn page, she wrote a few words. You shouldn't have gone alone, and tucked it under his phone. The walk to the highway stretched longer than she remembered. She muttered to herself, almost there, though she had no idea where there was. By midday, a delivery truck slowed beside her. The driver, an older man with a lined face, leaned out. You lost heading to Portland. He studied her belly, then nodded. Climb in. I'm going that way. Warmth filled the cab. They rode in near silence until he asked, running from something toward, I think. He chuckled softly. Doesn't make it easier. The city rose hours later, towers blurred by drizzle and traffic. Her pulse quickened. It looked unchanged, yet nothing about it felt safe. The driver dropped her near a bus depot. She thanked him and crossed to a diner. Grease and fried onions clung to the air. Tea, she told the waitress, then sat in the corner unwrapping the USB. It lay small and harmless on the table. Hard to believe so much damage could hide in something that fit her palm. The door opened. Caleb. Relief hit first, then anger. He saw her and froze before walking over. I told you to stay put. You left me, she said. I followed the map. He slid into the seat, lowering his voice. Had to make sure the road was clear? Someone tracked us last night, and you didn't tell me. No time. Listen, the lawyer Grant, he's being watched. They know we're coming. Her throat went dry. So it's a trap. Not exactly. He's alive, just spooked. Left a message coordinates for a secure drop. If we get the files there, they'll reach the right people before they're buried again. She studied him. You still think this is about truth? It's about ending what Reddick started. And us. He hesitated. Haven't thought that far. She almost smiled. Of course not. The waitress refilled her cup. Caleb paid in cash, eyes flicking toward the street. A black sedan sat across from the diner, two men pretending to argue. He reached for her arm. We need to move. They slipped out the back down an alley thick with trash and diesel. In a service lot, he pointed to an old sedan. Friend owes me. Elena climbed in as he started it. You sure this isn't another mistake? No. But waiting would be. Traffic slowed. Ahead, flashing lights formed a checkpoint. He cursed. They're expecting us. Her pulse rose. What now? If we stop, they take it. If we turn back, they follow. Then we go through, she said. He glanced at her, startled by her steadiness. She met his eyes, hand over her belly. The car edged forward, sirens swelling as the checkpoint neared. Two vehicles cut them off before the halfway mark. Caleb braked hard tires, screaming. Orders came through the downpour. He raised his hands, nodding for her to stay still. Let me talk, he murmured. Elena's grip tightened on the scarf-wrapped USB. Light flashed across the windshield. A man approached, hand near his holster. Caleb rolled the window halfway. Evening, he said, calm but strained. Step out of the car. The badge caught a dull gleam, but the eyes behind it were too sharp, too focused on her. Caleb stalled. We're just driving home. What's the issue out? The man repeated. Elena opened her door slowly. The cold struck her skin, damp and heavy. Another officer appeared on her side. Hands visible, he ordered. She obeyed. Is there a reason for this? No answer, just a hand reaching for her bag. Caleb stepped forward. You don't need to stay put. The bag opened. The silver USB slid into the officer's palm. He froze, glanced at his partner. A look passed between them. That's it, the first man muttered. We've got it. Caleb lunged, shoving him off balance. The drive slipped from the officer's hands, skidding under the car. A woman stepped out from the blocking vehicle, raincoat, tight bun, eyes cold and sure. Mr. Hart, she called evenly. Didn't think you'd betray us twice. He stiffened. You don't have to do this, Marin. You know I do. Her gaze turned to Elena. You're the one making such trouble. I didn't steal anything, Elena said. I just bought a unit. Accidents, Marin replied, rarely stay small. Caleb moved closer, hand brushing Elena's arm. Behind me. Marin's voice stayed calm. You think she's walking off this bridge, you're not killing her. Killing's optional, she said, signaling her men. Retrieve it, erase the trail. The officer reached for the USB. Elena kicked it away, sending it spinning into shadow. Caleb grabbed his arm, twisting hard. A shout broke through the mist. Elena ran. Her shoes slid, but she didn't stop. Orders rang behind her, boots pounding, tires grinding. She reached the railing, metal slick under her palms. A shot cracked. She ducked, heart slamming. Keep going. Caleb's voice rough and close. She turned just as he struck one of the men. Another hit him across the jaw. He staggered but stayed upright. Elena, he shouted. The drive, she dropped to her knees, groping beneath the car. Cold metal met her fingers. She shoved it into her pocket. Another thud, a body hitting pavement. Caleb stumbled toward her, bleeding. Run a flicker caught her eye, Marin gun raised. Elena froze. Don't, Caleb said, stepping in front of her. You should have stayed gone, Marin replied and fired. The sound was soft, almost polite. Caleb dropped. Elena's scream tore loose. Marin advanced. Give it to me. The rail pressed against her spine. You'll never stop it. You think this is about stopping? Headlights flared at the far end of the bridge. Real police this time. Marin's men turned. She cursed, lowering her gun. Elena, she said, you don't know what you're holding. Elena climbed the rail and jumped. The river struck hard, spinning her through black current. She kicked upward, gasping when her head broke the surface. Noise blurred, light scattered, and then only her heartbeat remained. She crawled onto the far bank, coughing water. The USB pressed against her pocket, still there, impossibly small. The current dragged her farther than she expected. When it slowed, reeds caught her clothes. She clawed up the muddy bank, lungs burning cold, sinking deep. Sirens wailed somewhere upriver, fading fast. She stayed on her knees, coughing until her ribs hurt, then looked around. A few houses leaned along the bank fences, broken porches sagging. One porch light glowed weakly through mist. She followed it, each step unsteady. At the stairs, she gripped the rail and knocked. A dog barked, slippers shuffled. An older woman opened the door, gray hair tied loose. Lord, you look half drowned. Come in before you freeze. Elena hesitated but stepped toward the warmth. The woman guided her to a chair by the stove, handed her a towel and a quilt. Fall in. Something like that. Name's Ruth. Need a doctor, I just need a phone. Ruth pointed to a small table. Landline's over there. Talk nice, it works better. Elena smiled faintly and dialed, unsure who to call, until her fingers found a number buried in memory. Mom? Elena. The voice cracked with surprise. Where are you? What's happened? I can't explain. I just need you to know I'm okay. Don't let anyone look for me. Elena, slow down. I'll call again soon. She hung up before hearing the rest. The silence after felt heavier. Ruth poured tea into a chipped mug. Whatever's chasing you doesn't have to cross my threshold. Elena wrapped her hands around the cup. I wish it worked that way. Nothing ever does, Ruth said. But resting helps. They fell quiet. Ruth hummed as she folded laundry. Elena watched the steam rise until tears blurred her sight. She let them fall. The sky was pale, the air raw. Ruth packed bread and dried fruit. You've got a road ahead. Eat while you walk. Elena thanked her. The woman squeezed her shoulder before letting go. The bus station was a few miles off behind a grain silo. Her shoes squelched on the damp road. When the station appeared, faded benches, humming vending machine. A man behind the counter, she almost cried. Headed somewhere, he asked. Portland. The bus groaned to life. Passengers scattered among seats. She leaned her head against the glass field, slipping past. Halfway through, her phone buzzed. Unknown number. Elena. A man's voice, steady, familiar. Her pulse jumped. Who is this Grant? The lawyer Caleb mentioned. I heard what happened. Her grip tightened. How'd you get this number? Caleb gave it to me. He's dead. A pause. He told me to find you if it went bad. So you know about the drive. Yes. Don't go to the police. Don't trust anyone who calls you first. There's a motel near Union Station, room 12. Leave the key with the clerk and walk away. I'll take it from there. The line went dead. She sat still, heart pounding. Trap or not, there was no better option. When the skyline rose ahead, she made her choice. The motel sign flickered weakly. The clerk didn't look up. Room 12, pay first. She handed him cash, took the key, and entered. The room smelled of detergent and old carpet. She set the USB on the table, staring at it. Find someone who will use it. Caleb's words. She slipped it into an envelope, wrote for Grant, sealed it, and left it with the clerk. Then she walked out without looking back. At the intersection, a bus passed, spraying mist across her shoes. She didn't flinch. One hand rested on her stomach. We're almost through, she whispered. The sound vanished into traffic, but her steps stayed steady. Elena walked until the motel vanished behind her. The city pressed close, cars, crosswalks, voices layered over one another. She drew her jacket tighter and kept moving. The baby shifted beneath her ribs, a steady reminder to keep going. She turned down a side street lined with small shops and apartments. The smell of roasted beans drifted from a cafe doorway. Hunger pulled her in. A barista glanced up. For here or to go, for here, she rasped. She ordered a sandwich, took a seat by the glass, and ate in slow, small bites until her hands stopped trembling. Calm almost returned. Then she noticed a man across the street in a gray coat standing too still. He wasn't watching her directly, but his gaze lingered on the cafe. She lowered her head, pretending to stir her drink. When she looked again, he was gone. Relief came, and left in the same breath. She finished her meal quickly and slipped out the back door. The alley opened to a busier street. She blended into the crowd thinking, if Grant was genuine, the USB would be safe by now. If not, she just delivered it back into the same hands she tried to escape. Her phone buzzed. A message appeared. It's done. Check the news in an hour. She typed back, who is this? No reply. She stepped into a laundromat to wait. Dryers spun, a child laughed at the coin slot. A woman folded towels. Elena sat near the vending machine scrolling headlines. Nothing new then, one story surfaced. Whistleblower leaks files exposing global money laundering network tied to late billionaire Thomas Reddick. Her pulse jumped. The article listed offshore accounts, encrypted data, government names. Source: an anonymous citizen. Caleb's name wasn't there, nor hers. Just the truth. A small sound escaped her, half laugh, half sob. The woman across the room looked over, but Elena only wiped her face with her sleeve. She breathed for a few quiet seconds before catching movement in the dryer's reflection, the gray coat passing the window. Her chest tightened. She grabbed her bag and slipped through the side door. A bus pulled up. She boarded without checking its route. The driver nodded, shut the doors, and pulled away. The city blurred past in streaks of color. Her phone vibrated again. You did the right thing. No sender. She let the message sit unanswered. When the bus stopped near a park, she got off. The ground was slick with leaves. Children played near the swings, their laughter rising and falling. The sound felt almost unreal, ordinary life unbroken by fear. She sat on a bench. Her shoes were soaked, but she didn't care. For the first time in weeks, no one seemed to follow. Caleb's face came back to her, the dry humor, the steady resolve. She wished she'd told him thank you. Maybe that would have been enough. Her hand drifted to her pocket, thinking of the USB. Something so small had wrecked and redeemed everything. Maybe truth only survived this way, passed from one weary hand to another. A soft kick from the baby pulled her back. We're almost there, she murmured, though she no longer knew where there was. The words steadied her anyway. A man passed by, dropped a folded newspaper on the bench, and kept walking. The headline read, Federal authorities confirm arrests in Reddick case, new evidence surfaces. She folded it neatly, slid it into her bag. For a moment, she could almost hear Caleb again. Guess the truth got a little louder. Her phone buzzed once more. You're safe now. Go home. She scanned the park. No one looked her way. Maybe it was Grant. Maybe not. Either way, she didn't want to know. A chill crept up her spine. She stood stretched and followed the path toward the street. A bus pulled in. Where to, the driver asked. She hesitated, then said, anywhere past the city. The park vanished behind her, swallowed by trees. She leaned back, hand over her stomach, eyes closed as the road hummed beneath the wheels, steady, unending. The bus ran for hours before stopping at a rural station. Elena stepped off when fields replaced buildings. Hay drifted faintly through the breeze. A few houses dotted the horizon. She sat on a bench outside a general store, palms resting on her knees. Fatigue pulsed through her in slow waves. Gravel crunched somewhere nearby, a radio murmured from within the shop. A woman carrying a basket paused. You look lost, sweetheart. Maybe just between places. There's a boarding house 2 streets over my cousin's. Cheap, clean, and quiet. Elena nodded as if the directions had been waiting for her. The farmhouse stood weathered, but cared for. The owner, Margaret, a tall woman with steady hands, led her upstairs. Nothing fancy, she said, but the roof mostly holds. That's more than I need. Elena paid for a week. Margaret handed her a key. Hot water's free. Gossip costs extra. The room held a bed, a dresser, a view of open land. She sat down, breathing into the stillness. It felt less like danger now, more like pause. That night she ate the soup Margaret left by the door. Warmth spread through her chest. The baby shifted and she whispered, We made it. At dawn, coffee steamed downstairs. Margaret was already reading the paper. "You're up early," she said. "Couldn't sleep. Sit. Have some." She poured a cup, sliding the newspaper across. "You following this Reddick scandal? Whole empire's crumbling?" Elena froze. "I heard something. Says they arrested politicians, investors, everyone. Funny how one leak topples a tower. Guess some towers need falling." Margaret chuckled. "Ain't that the truth?" She folded the paper. "Stay as long as you need. Nobody pries here." The words landed like a blessing. Days passed easily. She helped with chores, read paperbacks left behind by strangers moved through that no longer felt like hiding. Once Margaret said while folding sheets, "You don't talk much about before? Not much to tell." "Everyone's got something. You'll tell it when you're ready." Elena smiled faintly but stayed silent. One dusk, her phone buzzed. "It's over, you're free, no number." She read it twice, turned the phone off, and pocketed it. Freedom felt foreign, like a language she'd forgotten. The baby kicked stronger than before. "We'll figure out what that means," she murmured. Next morning, Margaret found her by the fence. "You've got a visitor," she said carefully. Elena's pulse jumped. "Who man in a brown jacket? Says he's a lawyer, Grant." She wiped her palms on her jeans. "Tell him I'll be right down." Grant waited by the gate, briefcase in hand. His face was older than she'd imagined, tired but kind. "I didn't mean to intrude," he said. "You deserve to hear it in person. Hear what the files went public. Every agency confirmed the data's real. You're clear, no charges, no chase." Her knees weakened. "So it's done." He nodded. "Caleb's name won't vanish. Some confessed already. It worked." She blinked hard. He'd call it dumb luck. Or maybe it's what happens when the right person won't look away. He offered her an envelope. Anonymous settlement. Enough to start again. She hesitated. "Why me?" "Because you finished what he couldn't." She took it, tucking it into her pocket. "Thank you." Grant nodded and walked toward the road until he disappeared among the trees. Margaret appeared on the porch, wiping her hands. "Everything all right? I think it finally is." "Good. Supper's waiting." Those chickens could outsing a choir. Elena followed her in. Days settled easily. Margaret hummed as she worked, tunes worn smooth by time. The house creaked when wind shifted a sound that felt like company. Elena woke early with a dull ache in her back. She eased it with her hand dressed and joined Margaret in the kitchen. "You slept through a thunderstorm," Margaret said, handing her tea. "Good sign. Means you're resting." "I'm trying. Some nights are harder. They'll ease. Everything does once you stop looking behind you." Elena sipped slowly, warmth spreading through her chest. Sunlight broke through clouds in thin stripes across the field. "Do you ever feel like you forgot how to live?" Margaret chuckled. "Honey, I've forgotten worse. Peace doesn't need remembering, it just sits down beside you one day." The words stayed with her long after Margaret went to the garden. Later, Elena wandered to the barn. Dust hung near the rafters, the scent of hay and rust, faint but familiar. She dragged a crate from the corner, searching for a blanket, and found a tin box filled with odds and ends. Buttons, coins, postcards. One showed a woman by the coast, hair blown across her face. On the back in faded ink, we found calm where we least deserved it. Elena smiled. The baby pressed against her ribs. She laid a hand on her stomach. "You'll like it here," she murmured. The world moved slower. The week passed gently. Margaret baked neighbors, traded eggs for vegetables. Frogs sang by the pond at dusk. Elena began keeping a small notebook. At first grocery lists, then fragments, pieces of herself she hadn't dared set down. One night she wrote, "I thought survival meant staying unseen. Maybe it's learning to stand still without fear of what finds you." She closed it before she could take the words back. Letters, Margaret asked the next day, passing toast. "Just thoughts." "They're worth keeping," Margaret said. "Otherwise, they come knocking later." After breakfast, Elena walked the dirt road beyond the fence. Buds opened along the trees, pale against dark branches. A truck passed the driver, waving casually. The ordinary kindness made her throat tighten. It had been months since anyone saw her without suspicion. By noon, the ache in her back sharpened. She stopped near the bridge, sitting on a rock. Pain came in waves. When it eased, she turned toward the farmhouse. Margaret met her at the porch, eyes wide. "It's time, isn't it?" Elena nodded. "I think so." The hours blurred. A midwife arrived, calm and steady. Voices softened, hands moved with purpose. The baby came just after sunset, small, loud, alive. When it was over, Elena lay still, clarity washing through exhaustion. The midwife smiled. Strong lungs. You did well. Margaret held the child first, whispered something Elena couldn't hear, then placed the baby in her arms. Warmth met warmth, a promise she hadn't known she'd been waiting for. The baby's face was soft, mouth searching. Welcome home, she whispered. The midwife packed her bag and left. Margaret lit a lamp. Rest now, she said. Tomorrow has its own work. Elena nodded. Next day, light spilled across the room. The baby slept in a wicker basket lined with blankets. Elena brushed a fingertip over the tiny hand. It curled around hers, strong and sure. She sat up carefully. Somewhere papers were being printed and names spoken, but none of that reached here. Margaret's hum drifted from the kitchen, the smell of bread following it. Elena rose, stretching the stiffness from her shoulders, and smiled at the sleeping child. We'll get used to mornings again, she whispered. The courthouse smelled of paper and stale coffee. Elena sat in the last row, hands folded loosely in her lap. She hadn't meant to come, but when Grant said the trial was open, staying away felt impossible. Two men in suits passed toward the front. Reporters filled the benches, pens scratching. The judge entered, murmurs fading. At the defense table sat one of the men from the leaked files, pale, restless. He glanced back once, their eyes meeting without recognition. She looked away first. The prosecutor spoke at length: wire transfers, shell accounts, forged contracts. Words like fraud and money laundering sounded smaller spoken aloud, but heavier under oath. Grant leaned toward her. Last hearing before sentencing, he whispered. Once they confirmed the documents, everything unraveled fast. Elena nodded. The baby, 2 months old, was home with Margaret. She'd left a note back by evening. Don't wait for me to eat. When the defense argued intent, the judge cut in. Intent's clear when you hide what you own in another's name. The room stilled. Elena didn't smile. She just exhaled. Afterward, she stepped into the wind. Grant joined her on the steps. It's done, he said. The foundation's dissolved accounts seized sentences coming. She pulled her coat tighter. And the whistleblower. They think it was internal. Your name won't surface. Her gaze drifted to the square where a fountain froze in thin ice. Good. Let it stay that way. You could come forward, he said. The press would protect you. They'd protect me for a day, then forget. I'd rather stay unseen. Grant smiled faintly. You sound like someone done running. Maybe. They parted at the lot. He promised to visit soon with paperwork. She promised to cook something passable. On the drive home, the highway stretched gray and empty. She turned the radio down, letting the hum of the tires fill the space. Margaret waited by the fence, waving her over. Everything go all right, it's done. Margaret nodded, relief softening her features. Come in. She's been fussy, missed you. The baby lay bundled by the fire, cheeks flushed pink. Elena knelt, brushed a curl aside. I'm back, she whispered. Margaret poured tea. Mail came, she said, handing her a brown envelope. It was from Grant, settlement approved. Your account is secure. Start fresh wherever you choose. Elena folded it. I'm not going anywhere. Good, I could use the help. They spent the afternoon fixing the fence loosened by the last storm. The ground was soft, their boots sinking slightly. Margaret worked quick, Elena slower, still learning. They rested against the posts, trading small jokes about city hands and country tools. By dusk, the farmhouse glowed faintly against the horizon. Chickens murmured near the coop, a dog barked somewhere far off. Elena glanced at the fading light. Do you think peace feels strange because we don't trust it? Margaret tightened a nail. Peace feels strange because it's real. Takes time to believe you're allowed to keep it. When they finished, the house was warm again. The baby slept soundly. Elena sat by the hearth, a cup between her palms. She thought of the storage unit, the drive, the running. It all felt distant now, like a story half remembered. Still, the weight of it lingered, a quiet reminder of what truth costs. Margaret sat nearby, knitting. What's on your mind? Elena smiled faintly. How something small can change everything. Margaret nodded. And how what's left after keeps you going. Elena closed her eyes, letting the sound fill the space where fear used to live. Not joy, not yet, just a steady pulse, alive and unbroken. The dew lingered on the grass. Elena stepped onto the porch, her daughter resting against her shoulder. Margaret was already in the garden, sleeves rolled, hands deep in soil. You're up early, she called. I think someone forgot what sleep means, Elena said, bouncing the baby gently. Margaret laughed. Good thing plants don't need much talking to. They just grow when they're ready. Elena joined her by the fence, crouching beside a patch of herbs, pushing through soft soil. You think they'll make it? They always do, Margaret said. You just have to keep showing up. The words settled in Elena's chest. When Margaret went to town, Elena stayed behind, folding laundry on the porch while the baby napped nearby. Wind moved through the trees, steady and kind. Now and then a truck passed on the road, but it no longer set her nerves off. Every sound belonged again. The kettle whistled. She poured tea, sat at the table, and opened her notebook. Some things don't heal because of time. They heal because you stop fighting the quiet. Her pen hovered, then added one more word, Caleb, before closing the book. The baby stirred. Elena lifted her, humming softly until her breathing evened. You don't know how many storms came before you, she whispered. The baby blinked, calm and curious. That's fine, Elena murmured. You just need sunshine. Later, a few neighbors dropped by with eggs and gossip. Joel, who lived down the road, fixed the loose gate hinge. There's a fair next month, he said. Pie contest, small parade. You two should come. I can't bake to save my life. Then come for the company. That's the part that counts. After he left, stillness returned, stretched and easy. The sun slipped low, painting long lines across the floor. Margaret came back carrying flour and a few letters. Mail's here, she said, handing one over. The envelope had no return address, just a single page. You were right to stay quiet. What you did changed more than you'll ever know. Keep living. That's how truth wins. No name. Elena read it twice, then folded it neatly and set it aside. Whoever sent it didn't matter. The words carried no danger, now only peace. Margaret watched her. Good news. Something like that. They cooked together stew, fresh bread. Conversation drifted between half-remembered stories and new ones forming. Laughter came easy light as steam from the pot. When night settled, Elena stepped onto the porch again. Stars hung faint and scattered. She sat on the steps with her daughter sleeping beside her, the hum of crickets soft and constant. The woman she'd been the one running, cornered half erased, felt far away now. Standing still no longer meant fear. It meant staying. The door creaked open. Margaret appeared with 2 cups of tea and sat beside her. You ever think about what's next? Sometimes, Elena said. But maybe next is just this, watching things grow. Margaret nodded. That's enough for most folks. They drank. The leaves rustled. The baby sighed. The night moved slow. Tomorrow she'd help plant more herbs, maybe go into town for fabric, maybe write to Grant about the garden. But tonight there was nothing to fix, only things to tend. Margaret rose. I'll leave the door open. I'll be in soon.